We head a little inland and travel on the fast road east, avoiding the industrialised section of the coast, and enter the East Neuk, the name given to this corner of the kingdom, as Neuk is an old Scots word meaning corner. At Lower Largo is the bronze statue of Alexander Selkirk, the real-life sailor on whom Daniel Defoe based his famous book Robinson Crusoe. Alexander Selkirk went to sea as navigator on a privateer, which was involved in a number of gun battles during its voyage. Moored off the Pacific island of Juan Fernandez, hundreds of miles from anywhere, Selkirk demanded that the ship remained there until repaired, but was refused, so he then demanded to be put ashore with his belongings and some food for survival. It was a good decision, for shortly after they sailed, the privateer sank and the 8 survivors were captured by the Spanish and held prisoner for 7 years. Selkirk was marooned on the island, living in complete solitude for 4 years and 4 months. When rescued by the ship's Duke and Duchess, he astounded the captain, whose men were in a bad way with scurvy and badly needed food and vegetables, by outrunning the ship's bulldog to catch a goat. Shortly after his rescue, he was given command of a ship with a crew of 100 and was involved in daring raids along the coastline of South America. He returned home to Largo with his share of the booty, amounting to some £800. On his return, everyone in the village was surprised, to say the least, including his mother, for they all thought he was long dead. He was restless and soon left home again, this time running off to London with a 16-year-old girl whom he met as she milked a cow. About a year later he was back at sea as a naval lieutenant. In 1719 he was aboard the HMS Enterprise in Lochalsh in the Highlands, as his flotilla of 3 frigates attacked Eilendonan Castle, which was being occupied by a force of Jacobites and Spaniards during another uprising. The castle was blown apart, and a resulting land battle at Glen Shiel ended in defeat for the Jacobite army, who retreated over one of the high Kintail mountains, now known as Sgurn an Spainchach, the peak of the Spaniards. Later Selkirk pops up in Plymouth and marries a widowed publican before heading for sea once again. This time he contracted a fever, died and was buried somewhere off the coast of West Africa. Another great son of Largo was Sir Andrew Wood, Scottish Admiral and loyal servant of James III and James IV. The king granted him the lands of Largo, and in return he had to keep the king's ship in a good state of repair and readiness for his regular trips to St Aidan's Chapel on the Isle of May. He built a castle using English prisoners of war, who also dug a canal about half a kilometre in length from the castle to the church, to which he was rowed in an 8-oared barge every Sunday by the prisoners. Sir Andrew died in 1539 and is buried under the aisle of the church. Leaving the lower and upon entering Upper Largo, you pass the ruin of Largo House, dating from 1750, a long lamented case of decay and neglect. The house was last lived in during the war by Polish refugees and damaged by fire. It was de-roofed and has been left to rot. We leave Upper Largo, climbing up a small volcanic hill called Largo Law. Local legend says that it was created when the devil dropped a boulder on it, and an outcrop of stone at the top is known as the Devil's Chair. It was a local belief for centuries that deep within Largo Law there's a stash of hidden gold. Needless to say, the gold was never found, but strange to say, in 1819 a tinker uncovered a stone coffin on the hillside which contained a suit of armour and some items of silver. Some of the items found have been preserved in the Museum of Antiquities in Edinburgh.